Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. We fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for right and freedom.
On this episode of Cigars and Sea Stories, Mike is sitting down with Mr. Mark Casper. He is a fellow Marine veteran, had a career in IT, and specifically focusing on large-scale government and civilian IT projects. Coming out of the Marine Corps, he wound up going to a number of different big names, such as Northrop Grumman, and now he is running the Tech for Troops project. Go ahead, check him out, techfortroopsproject.org. Mr. Mark Casper, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Michael. Glad to be here.
Yeah, how's life treating you?
You know, life doesn't get any better when you're doing something you love. And
I totally hear that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You know, you're right. Came out of the Corps, did a whole bunch of stuff. I think I ran every job under the sun. And yet I've fell into this because of the grace of God, or whatever you want to call karma. And I love every day now.
Nice. So run us through Tech for Troops real quick.
Sure. So what Tech for Troops does is we receive computers from corporations, individuals, the government, and we refurbish them if they're willing, if they're able to be given out, I should say. When we get a Windows 95 or a 98 machine in, we don't refurbish that to give it out, but we give out good quality computers to veterans and their families. So if somebody got out in 98 and they fell on some hard times and need some way to get online so they can start searching for a job or work for their VA benefits, they can contact a veteran service organization such as an American Legion, the VA, VFW, Wounded Warrior. There's so many out there. As long as we have a relationship with them, they contact me, and then we work to get that veteran a computer.
Right. So there's essentially a vetting element of this, for lack of a better way to put it. So it is for veterans in need of that tech.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've had a few different folks come in or contact us saying they wanted one just because they wanted one. And that's an immediate no. I actually had an active duty naval enlisted come in, walked into my shop and said, I want a computer. I knew the rank because, you know, I was in Marine Corps, Navy. And I looked at where the emblem was, and I said, so what rank are you again? And she said, I'm an E7. I said, well, guess what? You don't get a computer. I said, right. You can buy your own. So I appreciate you coming by, but no, you're not getting one. I was very polite about it, but I turned around and walked away because I'm not going to play that game when somebody just wants one.
Oh, for sure. Well, and that's kind of the different side. So like with Tech for Troops, when we were talking about this earlier, let's say, for instance, you get a walk-in or something like that, and you had mentioned your partners. What does that look like? Are you giving them your partner's information, and then, hey, circle back to us? How does it work for people?
I do. So if somebody contacts me, gives me a phone call, because our phone number's on the webpage, and it's www.techfortroopsproject.org. If they give me a call, I'll call them back and say, hey, John, sorry, we don't do it this way. Please contact the VA, American Legion, VFW, and go through them to come to me, because I don't want your personal information. I don't want your DD-214. I've had folks just send them to me via email, and I literally have to make sure I delete that and shred it, because I don't want your personal stuff. And I'm not guaranteeing your personal information safety when you send it to me via email or however you want to get it to me. That's not something that I want to get into. So we make sure that they go through the VA or the American Legion, and that post commander contacts me and says, hey, Mark, I have a vet that needs a computer. So that's how that process works.
Right. Well, then I wanted to get into that specifically because the unfortunate facts are people do the whole stolen valor thing. And I see it all the time, especially within this realm. Somebody will create some sort of pop-up thing, saying, "Hey, man, I did X, Y, and Z. You know, let me hop on Cigars and Sea Stories and share what's happening out here." And it's like, sure, man. Could we get on the phone? Could we chat about this? And 9 times out of 10, if they are in that stolen valor realm, they don't even want to get on the phone.
Right.
I'm all too happy to have somebody reach out via LinkedIn. Here's my background. Here's what I'm doing. This is what I'm engaged in. This is how we vet folks. This is how we add value to the world, which that's what you did. So that's
Right.
that's why I wanted to bring it up, because
Yeah.
listeners will say, "Hey, how do we engage? How do we interact with a lot of your different guests?" And we connect with people all the time across social media. And so for us, would we wind up sending them through those channels? Like, hey, go to your VA, go to your American Legion, tell them that you are in need of some sort of technology in order to get through. Let's say, for instance, could you give us a few scenarios? I mean, immediately off the top of my head, I'm thinking education. This is what they're using, this tech for.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've had some really good stories, vets come through. We had a female Navy vet come in, and she was actually in the nursing program, and her computer crashed. I mean, it just flat out died. And she was using the GI Bill to go through, so she didn't have a lot. We knew that. She came from the VA, and they said, "Hey, Mark, she really needs a computer to finish her nursing studies." And when she came in, I don't know a lot about nursing, but I know a little bit because, I've been in the hospital enough to be able to talk about it. And I asked her what she was doing, and she was spot on with all her answers. So I felt very comfortable giving it to somebody to continue her nursing program. We've had vets come in and have shaken our hands and said, "Thanks for helping me get a job." And we had another guy who contacted us, and I initially turned him down for a computer because he just said, "Hey, I'm in Kentucky, give me a computer." I'm like, "Sorry, dude, we don't do it that way. Go to the VA, go to whatever." We got wind that he was on his way to becoming one of the 22 who commit suicide every day. He was extremely despondent. All he had was a smartphone. He couldn't write the book that he really wanted to write. He couldn't find a job on his cell phone. And another person contacted us and said, "Hey, we really need to get him a computer." And I had just the day before told him no. And I contacted him and said, "Hey, sorry, we're going to get you a computer." And I think we honestly saved his life. Just flat out, it's a gut level feeling. He was on his phone texting me just as the FedEx literally drove up to his door. He's like, "It's here, it's here." And you could hear the joy in the text. That makes you feel good. That's why we do this, is because we don't want somebody to feel despondent and say, "Hey, it's not worth my life. It's not worth anymore. I'm gone." And because they don't have a computer, they can't find a job. They can't get into the VA. The VA's not responsive to them because they can't get in touch with them. We don't want that. We want to support the vets no matter what's going on. And it doesn't make a difference because we all fall on hard times. I don't know of a person out there who hasn't fallen on hard times.
Absolutely.
So, and that's what we do. It feels good, and it makes the soul sing when you do this.
Well, I definitely commend you for adding value to this situation, and I commend you for keeping a gate on your services, because a lot of people are like, come on.
No, can't do that. There's enough scammers and sleaze buckets out there that I'm cynical. I'm cynical up to a point, I should say. Like I said, when that Navy E7 walked in the door in uniform at that and said, "I want a computer," it was like, no, who are you? You don't deserve. But the vet who walks in the door and they're disabled or in a wheelchair, or you can tell they're coming back through homelessness and they're trying to better their life, absolutely 100% want to help. I mean, there are plenty of others we've helped. We gave the USO in Wisconsin 40 computers for Fort McCoy, so the troops up there can contact their families in the entertainment center, whatever the USO calls their center. We've given computers to the Lakota Sioux tribal region in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, so veterans who are there can start education And we've supported nonprofits around the United States with computers. So there's a lot that we do on top of giving computers out here in Richmond. We support any and all veteran service organizations. They have to be a veteran service organization, nonprofit-wise. And if they contact me and say, hey, Mark, I need a computer, I need 5 computers, we'll see what we can do. We don't always have what they need, but we can do something for them eventually. And we can't afford to pay shipping. So we ask that the VSOs and the veterans who live across the United States pay for their own shipping. And it's really cheap, because when when we're sending out a $350, $450 computer and they're paying $50 for shipping and handling, that's a pretty good deal.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
We do that. Plus, we only hire veterans. And I'll quantify that with my social media person, and she's a student in college right now. She's not a veteran, but I don't know of any vets who know social media the way the younger folks do anyways. So everybody else who works for me or volunteers with us, for the most part, are veterans.
I love it. That's excellent. And again, folks, that's at tech4troopsproject.org. Get yourself lined up. Now, is it only computers that you guys do? Are there any other services you provide?
We do. We also recycle. So in terms of giving, that's about all we do is computers. We get in other things, but I don't want to give any kind of computer equipment that I'm not sure about, that I can't test and refurbish, like servers. That's a different skill set that we don't have, but I get servers in, and what we do is we either recycle them. So we take everything apart, light steel goes into one box, CPUs, RAM, motherboards go into another box, and we sell that to help support ourselves, because we're always in need of financial donations. And one of the easiest ways to do it is when somebody gives me a Windows 95 machine, there's a lot of gold and silver and tungsten and platinum in those machines. We recycle those. Keep them out of the landfill. We're at about 118 tons now in 3 years, keeping it out of the landfill.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we do. And that doesn't include the ones that we've sold to help keep ourselves going. So if we get like a Core 2 machine, laptop or desktop, we can sell those to some wholesalers who resell them for us, and we get more money to keep in. We only give out i5s or i7s, which means newer machines that are able to be security updated by Microsoft or Dell or Toshiba or whatever the brand is that we give. I don't want to feel responsible for a veteran having their personal information stolen because I gave them an old machine.
Right.
So we don't do that. I just flat out refuse to. And I think everybody supports me on that, because cybersecurity is such a critical element today.
Yeah.
And that's one of the actually offerings that we have here in Richmond. We do personal cybersecurity training. And sometime early next year, we're going to start Microsoft Office training. And then we're also going to do resume creation and interview techniques, because we have vets come in and, I hire folks. And I had a vet come in one day for an interview. And this guy's, whoever's listening out there, don't do this. He was wearing a Brew Through t-shirt. Yes, I'm business casual because we're in a warehouse, but no, I'm not business casual when it comes to a Brew Through t-shirt. So I had this, I didn't hire the guy because he didn't show the respect that it needed. If he'd come in a button down and khakis, I probably would have hired him because he was a good guy. But I saw immediately what he didn't bring to the table was that respect. And all of us as veterans know what it takes to be a veteran, or what it took to be in the military. That's where you need to be. You need to respect.
Right. Well, all right. Let me ask you, Mark Casper. What was your MOS in the Marine Corps?
I was a 5922. I was a Hawk missile technician. I worked on a computer that was about 7 foot tall, about 3 foot deep, and about 7 to 8 foot long, and it had a couple of blinking lights on it. And that was what I did. From 1983 to 1987, I was in, and I took care of a computer and the IFF, Identify Friend or Foe Radar. And I was at Cherry Point, North Carolina.
Wow. Jesus. I didn't see these MOSs. You start talking with folks and you're like, wow, that's really interesting, because I'm one of those grunts. I want to know I just want to know what everybody else is doing, kind of
Right.
deal.
Well, it was one of those MOSs that today it couldn't be done because it was pretty much a fire and it was a straight line. It did a little bit of a movement left or right, up or down, but it wasn't enough. Like an air to air missile now, they can turn and move and like you see in the movies, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
To that extent. But ours was a fire and forget almost. And I liken it to what the Soviets or the Vietnamese did in Vietnam with the weasels going up against our wild weasels, the F-4s, and they'd fire at 10, 12, 15 missiles to take down one airplane. Well, that's sort of close to what we would have had to have done to take down a MiG. So
wow.
on the early 90s is when they sort of said, hey, we don't need this anymore, and they let it go.
Right. Oh, goodness.
But
so
I
you
met a lot
really did. You got out of the Corps and then, I mean, you applied that
Oh, yeah.
skill set, did you not?
I did, actually. I didn't immediately. I had that mentality of, I'm a Marine, I can do anything. And I quickly found out, especially after my first daughter was born, that I needed more than just me. I needed to have an education. So I went back to school in 93, 92, and finished in 97. And that's when I really took off. I mean, I did the Orkin Man. I was a FedEx driver. I've done telephone pole climbing. I was a linesman for a phone company.
Sure.
I did
Yeah.
all sorts of jobs until I fell back into the IT realm. And
God,
then at
that's
that point,
excellent.
it took off.
See, it's funny because we kind of, here's another question for you. Did you like your MOS?
Yeah, that's a hard question. The people, yes. The work, yes. But there was a lot of politics.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
And that was the part that I really didn't like. I wanted to stay in. When it was time for me to re-up, I went into the I guess the guy who was trying to keep us in the gunny, and I said, listen, I don't want to do Hawk missiles anymore. I want to get out and do something different. And he said, no, this is what you're going to do. Going back to school, restaurant arsenal, or you're getting out. And I said, well, then I guess I'm getting out because I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And then I got out. So the politics on that point just wasn't good. But I liked what I did. I learned a lot. I met a lot of great folks. I met a lot of D-bags as well. So,
Right.
Yeah, it is what it is. I think that's every job everywhere.
I tell people all the time, I'm like, look, I love being a Marine. I especially love being in the Marine Corps. I absolutely hated being in the military.
That's a good one.
You want to you want to send me alone and unafraid to go fight some crazy enemy on the other side of the world? Yes. You want
Right.
me to stand in formation? No.
Right. 3:00 in the morning to go run PT. Really? Are you out of your mind? But we did it. We made it through. It was something I'd never give up. And folks look at me and say, "You were a Marine?" I'm like, "Yep, absolutely." And I'm proud as a peach. And my mom and my dad both are extremely proud that I was in the Marine Corps.
That's
So
fantastic. Now, are either one of your parents veterans?
my dad was in the Army in the Korean War.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And then I have four brothers. My oldest brother was in the Navy, and then there was me in the Marine Corps. The other three never served. Great guys. Of course, my brothers, I love them to death, but they didn't serve. And then, of course, I have two daughters, and one's married to a Navy guy.
Oh, nice. Okay, so you can rib him at the Thanksgiving table.
I do, absolutely do, and he sort of tries to throw it back at me because he's a special guy.
Oh, nice. He's one of those Trident guys.
Yes, he is actually
One of those guys.
one of those guys. Yeah.
I had a buddy, he was a doc, who went over to that side. And before I got out of the Corps, I looked around the special operations elements and kind of said, hey, maybe that's what I want to do. Maybe this is what I want to do, whatever. So I called this doc, and I'm like, Jay, should I take a look at special warfare? He's like, you want to spend 12 hours underwater? I'm like, fuck no. Well, don't do it then. I'm like, well, that's fantastic advice. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for your candor.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, no, that's great, though. I would still call him Squidward because That's what we do.
Right, exactly. A little ragging here and there never hurt anybody. But it's all a brotherhood, I tell you that much.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's funny because on this show, while you're in service, you don't necessarily see all of the other branches. Maybe we work side by side a couple of different times, but really, you don't have a full understanding of what everybody else is doing. And in doing the podcast for the past couple of years, it has really opened my eyes to just how insanely different everybody else's mission is. And it has to be. We give each other shit all the time, but if our mission was the same, we would be competing.
Oh,
And in all actuality, we're just not. So,
exactly. It's fun because I have Army guys who work for me, a couple of Navy guys who've worked for me, and water taxis. And I asked the Army guys to clean up because the Marine Corps breaks shit and kills people, right?
right.
That's what we do. And I said, you guys are the broom guys with the dustpans, and we rag on each other. But it never gets down to the point where we hate each other or rag on each other so bad that we can't handle it. It's all in fun. It's all in the brotherhood, and it's something that those other 98